And it's interesting to hear your perspective that it seems to be symbiotic and a two-way street. That's
Yeah,
reassuring a little bit.
yeah. You want to be testing your messaging and your positioning with your market well before you have a product. Because why build something if no one wants it? Why make yeah, exactly. Man, this is really the world we live in with life science. It's very high paced, a lot of risk.
Welcome to Amplify AI Partners, where we discuss the intersection of technology and business transformation. I'm your host, Humza Malik, and today we're diving into a very high stakes industry in the world, life sciences, where a single decision can mean the difference between a breakthrough therapy reaching patients or losing hundreds of millions of dollars
Yeah.
in development costs. In an industry where 90% of biotech startups fail and drug development can take up to 15 years and cost into the billions, risk management isn't just a business skill, it's an art form that really separates the successful CEOs from the casualties. So, our guest today has built his career at the intersection of scientific rigor and business execution. Dr. Eric Reese brings a unique
Thank you.
perspective to life sciences leadership, combining his PhD level scientific understanding with the practical realities of commercializing breakthroughs and innovations. Dr. Eric Reese, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Can you please tell us a little bit about who you are?
Thank you. I appreciate the introduction too. A lot of what you were describing is very, very true, and I'm grinning in the background because it's like, man, this is really the world we live in with life science. It's very high paced, a lot of risk, tremendous amount of risk, and that's something that a lot of times the general public doesn't understand is that with that risk, when you lose, it's not like losing a couple million, it's losing hundreds of of dollars in this process. So in terms of a little bit of background, I'm the CEO and co-founder of Forever North Partners. And Forever North Partners, we have a team, a senior leadership team devised really for the commercialization process of a product and or service. So the team is built around different areas of commercialization for the life sciences industry. And I've spent my 25 plus year career in the life sciences exclusively. When I got out of school, I had a PhD and I was thinking, well, maybe I'll go and, do a postdoc or something along those lines. But then when I realized there's no money in it, there's no money in doing a postdoc. Who was my girlfriend at the time, and then later on married my wife, she says, well, let me get this straight. You're going to make as much as the assistant night manager of Taco Bell doing a postdoc. And I said, yeah, you're right. So I wanted to go into the business end of the life science proper community. So I spent time in sales and marketing and spent some time with some very good mentors. Two individuals come to mind: Rick Brown, who was well known for flipping companies, and then another individual named Steve Spots, who was from Pharmacia in its heyday. Pharmacia was where a lot of good sales and marketing people came out of. So those two gentlemen were my mentors in my career process and working with them and advancing me through. So in the process, we've had two successful exits where we sold Microcal to GE Healthcare, and we sold a company named Synseek to, at the time it was Danaher, who we sold it to. And I went into consulting because what I noticed is that you could work for a bigger company and make them a lot of money, or you can try it out on your own and find out where there's unmet needs in the life science business process and try to meet those unmet needs. And I've been a consultant now maybe a total of 12 years. And as a consultant, it's either survive or die because it's all on you. It's not where you have a check coming in from a company, you are the
Mhm.
company. And developing a team that gets that mentality is critical.
I'm
So take
sure,
care.
there's a lot of talk online, especially, with my generation and younger about, leaving the 9 to 5 and having freedom. But the other side of that coin is people don't realize there's nobody else you can hand off responsibility to either. You've
Yeah.
got people
Yes.
depending on you. Anything goes wrong, that's on your hands. I'm sure you might agree having the ability to make decisions certainly would be enticing. I'm saying that coming from a consulting background myself.
Sure.
So, okay, so tell us a little bit about Forever North Partners. So you
Sure.
mentioned you do the commercialization. Can you tell us a little bit more
Sure.
about your offer and even the CASMEC system? Am I saying
Sure.
that right?
Yeah. Yeah, you are saying that right. Casmic, correct. Yeah. So my partner and I, John Morris, my background is sales and marketing and business development, particularly marketing. My business partner, who's the CFO and Chief Operations Officer, he's more of an operations guy, particularly business operations, not in terms of a lab or sense, but again, the business operations and working capital, and basically that job of, well, how do you spend your money to make your company successful, or how do you keep the money? So John and I started Forever North Partners, and what we were originally doing was basically marketing programs. We were working a lot with companies either in the startup phase or companies that were looking had a successful product and were looking to go to the next phase of it. And we were really honing in on their sales and marketing process and getting their sales reps to either understand the low hanging fruit on the tree, or particularly their positioning and messaging. Scientists, they're great, and I love science and I love scientists, but sometimes they realize that or don't realize that because you built a great product doesn't mean anybody wants it. If you're not positioning and messaging it well, nobody's going to buy it. And so it doesn't matter how great it is. And sometimes there's also the old added philosophy of great science sells itself. It does not. There's several examples in the business literature. There's several examples in the business literature where a not as good product has done very well because it had the right business team behind it. And there's examples where fantastic products that really should have been the game changer failed. The perfect example of where the better product loss was VHS versus Beta. Beta actually was the better product, but VHS did a better job of sales and marketing, and thus they capitalized the market. So what we did is, in terms of back to Forever North, looking at our customers and what we were doing. We were capitalizing again on sales and marketing. We asked our customers, what are we leaving on the table here? Because we saw a lot of more money moving around that we can actually grasp. And essentially, it was the whole entire commercialization process, basically from product inception, or really if you look downstream in development where they have the product, okay, clinical trials or technological trials, how do we get it to market? What is it that we need to do? And so, being familiar with this pipeline, John and I decided, well, we're going to put together a team of experts in the variety of different application areas. So we picked up an expert in IP that works for Fisher Broyle, an individual named Jeremy Sanders. We picked up clinical trials professionals, social media experts, and we put together this team and we devised what's called the CASMIC system. It stands for Commercialization, Assessment, Sales and Marketing, Evaluation, and Clinical or Technological Trials. Where our customers, one of the things that we were hearing, particularly for the mid-sized people, is that they were working with a variety of vendors to get commercialization done for their product or service. And that's where the light went off because they're working with a variety of different vendors. The vendors all have their own timelines and they only have the pricing structure. So we thought, what if we went ahead and put it under all in one umbrella and could do soup to nuts aid all the way through? And the
Hmm.
customers really, really liked it. They bid into it well. Now, what we first did is try to sell the whole thing all the way through. And we got some pushback. We were getting some very good clients. We were getting some pushback. And then we decided we'll allow customers to customize it. And what I mean by that is, so if I'm working with a client and let's say they need clinical trial plus market introduction, post-market surveillance, they could basically acquire that service without having to acquire everything else. So once we did that, it took off like gangbusters. As we have customers that, again, they're working with a variety of vendors. Sometimes they may have a contract with a vendor and they want us to do different functionalities. So that ability for the customer to do that, they love the hell out of it. It was great. That's been the success point for us, is letting the customer customize what they need in order to get it to market, as opposed to saying, here, you got to buy the whole kit and caboodle. You don't have to.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so instead of, the full package off the shelf, we can
Yeah,
say, okay, we just want, these one, two, or three pieces. That's where we need the
yeah,
most help. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. And so it allowed that customization. And at first, the first thing we thought was, well, if we're selling the whole thing, the whole pipeline, we're going to make much more money. But that was short sighted, not realizing that the opportunity was the customization. And that customization really is what took off for us because we have clients, running the gamut from small companies even to some of the larger, companies. And for the larger companies, a lot of times what it is, they want a litmus test. They're seeing these things in the
Mhm.
market, or they're seeing, and they want somebody that's not, has skin in the game in regards to actually working with the company. They want someone to either verify what they're seeing or tell them that's not what we're getting or that's not what we're seeing. So it runs the gamut in terms of who we work for.
I think that makes a lot of sense, right? I mean, again, I'm coming from a management consulting background myself.
Mhm.
I've done 8 years of go-to-market strategy for tech companies and SaaS companies. So it sounds
Mhm.
like this is a little bit of a mix between,
Yeah.
the consulting's customization, but also somewhere in there is an echo of the what they call the land and expand model
Yeah.
within tech is okay, we're going to try it out. We're going to get a few seats. And, if our devs like it, if our users like it, then boom, we could blow out to 10,000 seats or
Yeah.
whatever the case
Yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
Okay, very cool. And also spoken like a true consultant, right? You've got the framework down with a nice catchy acronym.
Yeah.
I like that. Dr. Eric, you've, put together this team. Now, when you first got started, was this through, and you say you have a sales and marketing background. When you first got started, was it really through, industry relationships that you had already cultivated? Or what was your approach to kind of launch and get Forever North
Sure.
Partners up and running?
A combination of a couple things. One of them definitely was the network. I've spent my career in the life sciences market space, particularly products and or services that fit into drug discovery. Cultivating those relationships both on the science end as well as the business end was very helpful. But then also participating in current market trends. When I first started this whole process of my career, LinkedIn had started, but it wasn't really as big and as useful as it is now. Now LinkedIn's exploded. And also, I'm saying this to an audience that knows social media. So participating with current marketing tools, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and being a part of that community proper, that market channel proper, but also offering and positioning yourselves in a unique way. There's a really good book by an individual, Jack Trout or John Trout. My apologies for the name. It's called Differentiate or Die. And what the book really focuses on is really differentiating yourselves amongst your competitors so that you can be successful in what you're doing. There's a lot of consultants out there, but if you're saying the same thing as everyone else, and you're offering the same thing, it's really not going to go well for you. So for us, it was really understanding, I know this, is a little bit of a cliche, but what keeps your customer up at night? And what do you bring to the table for them? Where a lot of companies, you look at a lot of big companies and they say how great they are. And I can remember one of my mentors, Steve Spots, used to tell me, no one wakes up in the morning wanting to buy your instrument, And I said, what? I said, what do you mean? We sell these great instruments. He said, Eric, they don't care if they discover a drug with a toaster. They just, it makes no difference to them. It's the fact that they did it. So really integrating that with our team and getting them to understand that the only reason why we exist is that we're actually solving problems for somebody and then aligning ourselves. What's really key, particularly in life sciences, is the whole atmosphere of key thought and opinion leaders. Science and science sells is a peer review process. The idea that clients buy upon peer review from key thought and opinion leaders is very true. So we've gone about a strategy of aligning ourselves with key thought and opinion leaders, whether they be a company or individual, such that if they're using the product and or services, it branches out quite well. It's developing that relationship with those individuals. And a lot of times, the other strategy that we've used is someone that's young and hungry. And I know that's another cliche, if you will, but someone that really wants to make a dent in their career they sometimes, if you align yourselves with them and they're at a company, they're pushing what you're doing so much because they want to bolster their own career and their own success on it. That can be very successful as well. But again, you have to, as part of in the sciences community, realize that that peer review process is very alive and very well, whether it's in the sales end of it or in the science end of it. It's still going on.
I think that's a really interesting that last point you made because, from my consulting lens, it was very common advice in the front lines, in the trenches,
Yeah.
manager and below levels. Make sure you have an executive sponsor, not just with the client, but internally. And it's interesting to hear your perspective that it seems to be symbiotic, and a two-way street. That's
Yeah.
reassuring a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so you also mentioned, thought and opinion leaders. And so now I want to kind of get into a bit of the elephant in the room. So the 90% failure rate in biotech. So from your experience in working with, perhaps successful and struggling companies,
Mhm.
what would you say are the top three risk management mistakes that consistently kill life science ventures?
So, one of the processes that we do is a strategic roadmap. And I know that's a really kind of broad-faced term, but not a business plan, but a really strategic roadmap that you can also, as it progresses, make into a tactical plan. Sometimes what we've noticed, well, I shouldn't say sometimes, we're pleading with our customers is they have a product and they figure they're just going to either bootstrap it or get money from an investor and launch, and not realize that there's a lot of steps in between that can really kill you and kill your company and kill what you're doing that you may not originally see as part of the process, but they really much are. To spend the time early on really putting together a strategic roadmap, and you could do it granular, you can do it, something that covers a quarterly look, putting together that strategic roadmap that includes finances. We have a model that we use that we've developed called dynamic financial modeling, and where it's basically put out on an Excel spreadsheet, but it allows you to adjust your numbers as things are coming in or expenditures are made. So you get a snapshot in front of you of where you're at. And I think that's, what we've noticed is a lot of companies don't do that road mapping, and then they're not really looking at how they're spending, but do their spending make sense in the long run? The other thing that we see, and this is a lot, and it's a criticism of science in general, a lot of times with companies that are founded by scientists, is not getting sales and marketing involved early enough. They always, for some reason, seem to believe that, well, I'm going to make a product, and once I get it and it's finished, then I'll get sales and marketing involved, then I have something to sell. Not realizing that your sales and marketing people and team are very critical throughout the process. You want to be testing your messaging and your positioning with your market well before you have a product. Because why build something if no one wants it? Why make yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I've been part of companies, and I could remember Rick Brown. I was part of one of his R&D meetings, and that he had with the R&D team, and he asked them various projects that were going on. And he asked them, have you guys talked to any customers or talked to any of the salespeople to find out if customer wants this, wants these products? And it was funny because the R&D team was like, sales who? Or these guys, they didn't really work with those guys. So the other failure again is really getting sales and marketing people early on, whether they be consultants or something. You need somebody talking with your customers on a daily basis, or your potential customers on a daily basis. And it's not an aftermarket thought once you have it done, because again, looking at the business literature, there's several examples of fantastic products that failed because nobody did any market testing. The other big failure that I really see is post-market surveillance. You have a product out there, how you treat your customers and what you do for them really matters and makes a difference. Your sales process doesn't end because you sold them something. That post sales and marketing surveillance to monitor how are the things going, and then using that for your next customer. One of the classical examples, I've worked a lot, in my own career as a manager with sales reps in the field. And some of the comments I've heard is, well, I'm running out of leads. and I'll ask them, did you talk to your people that currently have the instrument? And sometimes I'll get the response, what for? They already bought it. And I'm like, well, they're at a company. I bet you there's tons of people that are using the damn thing, you know, particularly for an instrument that's $300,000, $400,000. There's probably several other labs using it. I said, that's your lead list. Go find out who those people are, because lo and behold, they probably want their own because they're sick and tired of having to wait to use the damn thing. You know, you want it,
Yeah.
so that
Mm.
post sales surveillance, we notice that with a lot of companies, that's what they fail at too. And you'll hear, well, I don't have new leads coming in. We're not going to shows. Well, your current customer list, are you monitoring that and working those as future leads and prospects?
I would love to do a whole episode on sales reps and, thinking like an owner really
Yeah.
and around that mindset. And, sometimes even if we don't have a fully dedicated customer success organization, sometimes we got to switch that hat out, put that
Yeah.
hat on, and go, deeper into our install base. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Thank you. Dr. Eric, you mentioned staying on top of current trends and even current marketing tools. So, with the rise of AI and digital transformation accelerating, there might be a new risk around technology adoption within life
Mhm,
sciences. So how
mhm.
are, both your clients and these successful CEOs, as well as yourself at at Forever North Partners, how are you balancing that innovation with the, I guess, conservative nature of
Sure.
healthcare regulation?
That's a very good question. And it's something that we're encountering ourselves on a daily basis. My position with talking to our clients and even with our own company and talking to our various leaders that we have here is don't view AI as a threat. It's another tool because it's definitely a tool that's not going away. So it's you better use it because if not, you're going to get left behind. Use it in the sense of to build out your business. And let me explain a little bit further. A lot of what we're seeing particularly with a lot of consultant companies, they're saying, I can offer you one of the classical examples is what if I can generate 20 leads a day for you? But a lot of customers don't realize all they're doing is going into chat GTP. They're not doing anything unique. It's not a unique tool. A lot of that you can in fact do yourself and develop your own tools without a lot of advanced knowledge. Sometimes one of the concerns was, well, how much coding experience do I have to have, or how much knowledge of AI platforms that do I need to have? And in reality, not a lot. There's a lot of very good trainer courses that are for free or offered online that'll get you, I like to call it not deadly, but dangerous enough, dangerous enough that you can understand the technology. We use it. We have a proprietary lead generation tool that we've developed that's a combination of different, AI platforms, if you will, but to really hone in on the customer. And this is where the timeline switched. Before you'd have to scour the internet, maybe scientific articles, go to conferences to start generating lead lists. With AI, because of the granularity of what you can do, you can really generate some fantastic leads for your company and your sales team very quickly. And they're very, again, using that granular approach, very specific to what they're doing. So it's changed the game from the timeline, of course, for having to do a lot of market research to simply going on an AI platform and using the messaging that you have to develop a customer lead list from. One of the things that we share with clients is, okay, if you have let's say a product sheet, you can easily upload that into AI and ask a simple question. One of the things we first did is, what clients do you think would be interested in this? And I thought it was a silly question at first, but lo and behold, it populated a list. And of course, at first it was very broad. But then once I started asking more specific questions, there it was right in front of me, a very good granular list of who's doing what and who would fit this. If I was doing traditional marketing research, that may take a month or two. During AI, it took a couple hours for us to figure that out. So, one of the things we do with our customers is the old saying of give up the baby for adoption. But we typically work for customers anywhere from 3 to 6 to 12 months, but we want it where the processes that we're doing become their own. So we teach and show them how to do that so that eventually they, leave the nest, if you will. They're no longer a client of Forever North Partners. They, we're very humbled and fortunate that they refer us out to other clients, but it's showing them how to do it. And that's something that I think is a responsibility of the business community proper, is to not keep your tools private, to show others how to use it to actually grow the community. So we show our clients actually what we're doing and how we're doing it, because we want them to do it. And again, if you treat them well, they will refer you out.
I think that's a great point. And that goes to, consultants being a trusted advisor, not
Yeah,
the guy who steals your watch and, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
sells you what the time is,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, I like that. That's a good philosophy. Okay, so our kind of final question here. When you look at your client base in the broader industry today, what is the biggest risk management blind spot that you see life sciences CEOs missing today? And what do you think they should be preparing for that they might not be?
One of the things, particularly with AI is as good as the information that's fed into it. There's the limitation right there. It seems fantastic that it solves all these different things, but again, it's as good as the information fed into it. So you still need that human component to verify and get that information. A lot of the things that I've seen within my own industry, within consulting, is I'll get emails talking about, well, what if I were able to downsize your team? Save Forever North money part or Forever North Partners money. What if I was able to replace your HR, replace your sales and marketing functionality with AI? And to me, that's not the point of AI. AI is not a replacement tool. It's a fantastic tool to use to grow. And so what I encourage, our clients is, it's like, you're not looking to get rid of your sales team. You're looking to augment it. And there's the risk right there, is to basically say, okay, we're going to go everything AI, and we're going to go everything with this consultant, and we're going to cut back X, Y, and Z within our own company. I've seen it where that puts a tremendous risk, because you need your own company to be verifying that information for you. You need those feet on the street. It may not have to be as big a team, but you still need that human component and that acceptance that AI is a tool. It's not a replacement. It's a fantastic tool, but use that fantastic tool for what it was intended to do, which was basically make our lives better, easier, and faster. Use it to that advantage. So again, that
Uh,
whole risk of AI is going to replace everything. It's not.
I would certainly agree. I think it's a force multiplier.
Yes.
And I think actually what's really interesting, I guess the main consumer market, you can say, is starting to use, ChatGPT and these LLMs almost as a better Google search. And for the
Yes.
first time in history, Google started losing market share. I thought that was pretty big. We'll
Yeah.
see, we'll see how it evolves. But yeah, to your point, there's many, many use cases of AI. It's not just, the LLMs, right? Especially with this whole idea of agentic
Hmm.
AI. I think it's fascinating. Thank you, Dr. Eric
Sure. Thank
Reese.
you. Appreciate it.
I think this conversation has been really insightful, and you seem to be both a scientist and a practical businessman.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Um, and thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you, sir.
And if you'd like to reach out to Dr. Reese, you can either find him on LinkedIn or at forevernp.com.
Thanks, everyone, and I'll look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, until next
All
time.
right. All right. Till next time.